He was only 7 years old when he saw his school explode under Soviet bombs. He never forgot the noise, the screams, or the dust. This child, traumatized by war, would go through refugee camps, poverty, and prison. And against all odds, he would become a feared criminal, a gang leader at the head of a true underground empire. He would build his own army, outsmart the law, and spread terror through the streets of Sydney. His name, Farhad Qaumi, the Afghan. This is the true story of a man who defied an entire country and ended up losing everything. Subscribe if you enjoy powerful, true, and moving stories. It all begins in Afghanistan, in the midst of chaos. Farhad Qaumi is only 7 years old when his life is turned upside down. Soviet planes bomb his school. The sky explodes, the ground shakes, and dust fills everything. That day, his world collapses. He doesn't understand everything, but he knows that nothing will ever be the same again. He flees with his family. He crosses India, then lands in Australia in 1993. They hoped for peace. They find exclusion. They are settled in Auburn, a tough neighborhood in Sydney, filled with social injustice, poverty, and young people already lost. Farhad is a child scarred by war, by fear, and by an exile that was far too brutal. He doesn't read. He sleeps poorly. His head is filled with nightmares of bombs and screams. Very early on, he feels like a stranger in his own world. At 14, he falls into delinquency. He snatches a bag from an old lady. Then there's an assault in a park. Then a theft at a train station. Each time, it's a little more violent, a little darker. Farhad is young, but his gaze is hardening. He starts to become frightening. He starts to make a name for himself. Social services try to help him. They see psychologists. They talk to him about trauma, about therapy, but he doesn't want to hear any of it. He doesn't trust anyone. He lives on the street, in anger, in mistrust. At 19, he already has a criminal record and is accused of sexual assault. He denies it. The case is closed, but the police won't let him go anymore. They watch him, observe him, waiting for his next misstep. A month later, 2 weapons are found under the passenger seat of his car. He says he found them by chance. The judge doesn't believe him. Verdict: 18 months in prison. And yet, this isn't the end. It's the beginning, because behind bars, Farhad is going to change. He won't fall apart. He will build himself up, he will become stronger, and soon he'll come back more dangerous than ever. When Farhad enters prison in 2003, he's still young, impulsive, and angry. But this stay behind bars is going to change everything. He starts by building muscle. Every day, he trains relentlessly. He wolfs down bread non-stop to gain weight. He transforms his body, but above all, he transforms his mind. He learns to read. For the first time in his life, he understands words. He devours books. He discovers new ideas. He understands the power of organization, of strategy, of silence. He also prays. He recenters himself. He distances himself from the loud, petty thugs and observes the real decision-makers in the shadows. He realizes that the street isn't just a game of strength. It's a game of alliances, hierarchy, intelligence. Farhad doesn't waste his time. He plans. He's already thinking about his release. And in 2005, when he gets out of prison, he's no longer the same man. The days of being a desperate petty thief are over. Farhad has become a soldier, a man of order, a dangerous man. Very quickly, he shows that he hasn't come back to fade into the background. One day, he comes across a man he suspects of spying on his house. He threatens him in broad daylight, gun in hand. This is no longer provocation, it's about control, about power. But this act will set off a chain reaction. 2 men, friends of the victim, decide to teach him a lesson. One is a professional boxer, the other a former inmate. But they underestimate Farhad. On Black Cell Street, the conflict erupts. Witnesses first hear screams, then 5 gunshots. Quick, precise, deadly. When help arrives, both men are seriously injured. One of them dies reciting prayers, the other succumbs a few hours later. 2 dead in the street, and Farhad has already vanished. He flees west, heading for Perth. On the way, he changes his appearance. He cuts his hair and dyes it blonde. He uses fake names, changes his number, and hides in apartments rented under false identities. He watches gangster movies. He practices blending into his role, but after 6 weeks, the run comes to an end. The police arrest him in front of his building. He does not resist. He knows the game is starting over. Farhad spends 3 long years in prison waiting for his trial. 3 years strengthening himself, preparing, asserting his version of events. He shot in self-defense. He was afraid. The 2 men were dangerous. The jury listens to him and, against all odds, he is acquitted. Not guilty, no prison. From that day on, he is no longer just Farhad. He becomes the Afghan, the one who escaped justice, the one who not only survived, but triumphed. And in the streets of Sydney, a legend begins to take shape. In 2011, a seasoned investigator named Justin Aris decides to reopen an old case. A forgotten name. A mysterious disappearance. Cengiz, 24 years old, a small-time Turkish dealer, vanished in 2005 without leaving a single trace. The rumors, however, never stopped. In the underworld circles, everyone points the finger at one man, Farhad Qaumi. Some talk about a kidnapping, a murder, a body thrown into a stream or buried under concrete. But there is no evidence, no witness, no corpse, nothing. Just whispers and a deep sense of unease. Aris investigates. He combs through the file and quickly realizes that the investigation was botched. Some leads were never pursued. A house in Maryland, suspected of hiding a corpse, wasn't even searched. He reopens the case. He assembles a team. They drain an entire stream, Duck Creek. They search. The media are there, so are the cameras. All of Sydney holds its breath. Bones are found. Suspense. Hope. But then the analysis comes in. They are animal remains. The mystery deepens. The case seems to fall back into oblivion. But on the other side of the screen, in his house on the coast, Farhad is watching the news. He follows the case and is so confident that he starts talking about the murder on the phone. He thinks no one is listening. He believes he's untouchable. But Justin Aris is listening, and during a phone conversation, Farhad makes a mistake. He lets slip a compromising remark. It's not a direct confession, but it's a crack. And above all, a new element turns the case around. A former accomplice finally agrees to testify. After months of hesitation, he decides to spill everything. Aris finally has what he was looking for. In April 2012, Farhad Qaumi is arrested. He is officially charged with the murder of Cengiz. But as soon as he's incarcerated, Farhad turns his new cell into a headquarters. There, he meets Bassam Hamzi, the founder of the ultra-violent Gang Brothers for life. And very quickly, an alliance forms. Bassam is looking for a successor, someone methodical, ruthless, religious, someone like Farhad. That's when everything changes. Because right in the heart of the prison, the Afghan inherits a criminal empire. But meanwhile, outside, the Sarak case is falling apart. A mistake in the investigation. A sensitive document mistakenly sent to the accused. The informant recants. The evidence is too weak, and the worst happens. The case is dismissed. Farhad walks free once again. And this time, he doesn't come back alone. He comes back with an arc. It's 2013. Farhad Qaumi is no longer just a name on the streets. He becomes a symbol, a living legend, a master of urban warfare. In the shadows of Sydney's western suburbs, he patiently builds what no one had dared before. A true street army. With the help of Bassam Hamzi, he receives $10,000 in funding. Not to buy luxury cars or show off on Instagram. No, he has a much bigger plan. He wants to create a new branch of the Brothers for Life. An independent, powerful, disciplined cell. Their stronghold, Blacktown. To achieve this, he teams up with a formidable lieutenant, Rahman, a former biker gang member, tough, loyal, and feared. Together, they merge their crews. They recruit, they test, they select. Then, they settle into a dirty, run-down warehouse. And there, they build their headquarters. They set up leather armchairs, surveillance cameras, a pool table, weights, disco lights. It's not just a hideout. It's a fortress, a war room. Every Saturday night, meetings are mandatory. All members pay a weekly fee. Those who refuse are punished. Everything is discussed there. Drug trafficking, safe houses, enemies to eliminate, ongoing operations. And at the head of it all, Farhad, the general. His brother Moam becomes his right-hand man. Jamil, the youngest, watches him, fascinated. Rahman, for his part, carries out the decisions sometimes with his fists, sometimes with bullets. Within a few weeks, the Blacktown chapter becomes formidable. The members ride together, in a line, in powerful cars. They wear black jackets, tattoos, and above all, a military-like loyalty. The police start to keep an eye on them. Rival gangs do too. And at the top of the organization, Farhad smiles, because everything is going exactly as planned. But to truly control the Brothers for Life empire, he has to eliminate one last obstacle. The leader of the rival Bankstown chapter, nicknamed LC, Little Crazy. LC is the opposite of Farhad. Loud, arrogant, flashy. He promises weapons, then doesn't deliver them. He laughs behind his back. He doesn't respect the hierarchy. Farhad puts up with him for a while, then he understands. To grow his empire, LC has to disappear, and he starts planning. War is about to break out. The 28th of October, 2013. It's just after midnight in Rizbesby Heights, on a quiet residential street. Everything seems peaceful, but in reality, a commando team is approaching in the shadows. In a Nissan Tida, there are 3 men on board. A driver, a young soldier, and an experienced killer. Their target, LC, Little Crazy, the man Farhad wants to eliminate. The plan is simple, precise, surgical. LC is under a court-ordered curfew. They know exactly where and when to find him. It was Farhad himself who picked the team. He gave them the weapons, the timing, the instructions. And meanwhile, he deliberately made himself visible in a public place under surveillance cameras to create an alibi. 12:30. The lights come on in LC's garage. That's the signal. The attackers approach, silent as shadows. Then, chaos. Gunshots ring out. LC is in the garage, surrounded by his cousins. One of them, Mahmoud Hamzi, is shot in the head and collapses, dead on the spot. LC manages to escape through a side door. Another cousin pretends to be dead. The third is shot in the leg. It all happens in a matter of seconds. Then the killers flee. The car is set on fire at dawn. The message is clear. But what Farhad hadn't anticipated was that LC would survive. A few hours later, he appears in front of the cameras, dressed in a blue jumpsuit, smiling, provocative. He sends a message to the whole city. I'm alive and I know who tried to kill me. War is no longer just a possibility. It has just broken out and no one is safe. After the failed attack on LC, everything speeds up. The streets of Sydney become a battlefield. Every night, gunshots ring out. Every day, a new target. As for Farhad, he disappears. He delegates, he observes, he commands from a distance. Names circulate on a blacklist. Michael Odekau, Masood Zakaria, Mahmoud Sanusi, Khaled Hamzatis are the enemies, the traitors. And one by one, they are targeted. On November 3rd, 2 gunmen attack Odekau's house. He survives, but his mother is hit. Pellets pierce her arm. The next day, a little girl is caught in a shootout. She is seriously injured. Her pelvis, her lungs, her spine are hit. She survives, but just barely. Australia is shocked. This is no longer a gang conflict. Innocent people are falling, families are being affected. The police have no choice left. 2 investigative units are created. One focuses on the murder of Mahmoud Hamzi. The other tries to prevent the next attacks. Wiretaps are set up. Surveillance is conducted 24 hours a day. Every brother, every soldier is tracked. But Farhad stays one step ahead. He senses the pressure mounting. So, he makes a brutal decision. He leaves the country. Destination, Thailand. He lets his brothers lead on the ground, but the attacks continue. And soon, a new name emerges from the silence. Abbas, an ally from Bankstown who tries to identify the homes of Farhad's relatives. The retaliation is immediate. Mumaz, Farhad's brother, orders a new series of strikes. But this time, the police strike first. Arrests come one after another. The police announce a spectacular breakthrough in the fight against brothers for life. Dozens of members are apprehended. The network is weakened. The foundations begin to shake. Then, the final blow. On January 1st, Farhad is the target of an assassination attempt. He survives, but the message is clear. Even outside the country, he is no longer untouchable. The fear has changed sides. The police no longer wait. They take action. Farhad and Mumaz are arrested. Officially, the charges are minor firearms. Drugs, but in reality, the investigators are piecing everything together. Call by call, witness by witness, they are preparing the final strike. It's 2017. The investigations are complete. The evidence is solid. The calls have been cross-checked. The witnesses are ready to testify. The recordings are lined up. Justice is ready to strike hard. Farhad Qaumi is tried on 15 counts, including contract murder, attempted murder, solicitation of murder, possession of weapons, drug trafficking, and above all, the mistaken killing of Mahmoud Hamzi, someone close to his own side. The trial is tense, closely watched by the media. The jurors listen to the chilling details of the shootings. The victims tell their stories, surveillance footage is shown, and finally, the verdict falls. 60 years in prison, of which 43 are non-negotiable. The judge describes him as a man of calculated violence, a feared leader, the one they called when someone needed to die. His brother Mumaz, right-hand man and enforcer, receives 50 years in prison with a minimum of 36 to serve. The youngest, Jamil, swept up in the infernal spiral of his elders, gets 30 years, with at least 21 to be served. It's not just a gang that falls, it's an empire. A kingdom of fear, blood, and control that collapses in on itself. Farhad Qaumi wanted to build his own army. He did it. He wanted to challenge the state. He tried. He thought he was untouchable. He was wrong. If this story shocked, captivated, or intrigued you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Because behind every name, every shot, every street empire, there is always a broken child who thought he could rule.